Hello and welcome to the Reviews Brothers. While I've never been a person who cared about console wars, as far as I was concerned, if I found a game enjoyable, I didn't give a damn what system I was playing it on. I did, however, tend to gravitate towards Nintendo most of the time. This meant that when the Xbox and PS2 and Gamecube were competing, I had myself a Gamecube. Most of my friends had PS2s, and only a handful of us had the Xbox, meaning I never really got that much experience with them. It wasn't until 2023 that I actually got one for myself, and it's not until now that I'm really getting around to playing it. Having not had that much experience, I thought I'd better start with games that you can't play anywhere else, and that's what we're looking at in this video, Xbox exclusives. My criteria for this is basically just that it has to have that little stamp on the box that says only on Xbox. So yeah, some of these might be available elsewhere by now, but at the time they weren't. So, how about I shut up, you press that subscribe button, and we take a look at some games. First up is Brute Force, which is a very early game for the system, and one I remember really wanting to try when it came out. Well, now I have. Oh, and by the way, any games here that are backwards compatible with the Xbox 360, I will be playing on there just because the image quality is better, and this is one of them. Anyway, Brute Force is a squad-based third-person shooter, and it's set in the future, where loads of planets and species that all know about each other are friends and, of course, enemies. As you'd expect, a bunch of evil alien bastards have come together to try and take over, and you're part of a clone squad that is sent on various missions across various planets to stop their plans. There are 4 characters you can play as, each with their own stats and abilities. There's Tex, who is the generic army dude. He's good with machine guns and has loads of health and moves at a decent pace. His special ability is that he can wield 2 guns for a short time for maximum damage. There's Brutus, a cool lizard guy. He moves really fast and his special ability is Lizard Vision, where he can see heat signatures. This is great in foggy or dark areas for highlighting enemies. He can also go into a rage and kill people with his claws. Then there's Hawk, a sexy woman. She's a spy, and although she's quite weak, she has the ability to cloak herself and sneak past enemies to get into good positions to take enemies from behind. And then there's Flint, another sexy woman, who is basically your sniper. Her ability lets her lock onto enemies automatically. The gameplay here sees you being dropped onto various planets in some quite linear stages. You're given objectives which you'll come across along the way. These involve killing everyone, blowing things up, rescuing civilians, finding certain items and intel, and so on. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's fine and what you'd expect from a game like this. You start out with only one character, and will unlock the others as you progress through the story. Something that is a little bit of a shame is that for the most part, the character's special abilities don't really play too much into the stages other than when they're first introduced. After that, you can pretty much just choose your favourite character and stick with them. They do each have a few unique weapons to them, but can all pick up the ones that you find within the levels. The levels themselves are quite large, but tend to follow a single path. Honestly, I don't really mind this. However, I did find that even with the linear levels, there were times where I didn't really know what I was meant to be doing, and even after reading the briefing in the pause menu, it still wasn't entirely clear, though it was nothing a bit of backtracking never fixed. Even though it's a squad-based game, there's not really much in the way of tactics needed. The game really plays just more like a regular third-person action game, and going in guns blazing usually works most of the time. It's a bit of a shame that there wasn't more strategy needed, and especially the use of these specific abilities. Having said that though, I do like the action here. It's solid and the shooting is pretty good for the most part. If you die, there's no resurrections until the next level when you get cloned ready for the next stage. The AI doesn't do a bad job of looking after itself either. Be careful though, as they will use up your precious first aid kits if they take damage, but a nice touch is that they won't ever use the last one, and that's always saved for you to use manually. You can really tell the game is meant to be played online with friends though, which I imagine actually would be good fun. It looks decent enough, especially for an early game. I am playing it here on the Xbox 360, which does clean everything up a little bit. But I do like the character designs and the levels as well, but of course this is the era of grey and brown, so don't expect too much in the way of colour. There is a bit of slowdown here, but funnily enough, when I was playing this on the original Xbox before I actually recorded this footage, I actually think it played better on that system without the slowdown, rather than it has on the Xbox 360. I presume this is down to how they do their backwards compatibility. Still, either way, I had fun with this one. It does have a few issues, but nothing that can't be excused for such an early game on the system. Next up is Bloodwake. this game is not backwards compatible, so the footage you see here is from my original Xbox. This is a really cool arcade-style action game where you take control of a number of different boats, each of which have their own weapon loadouts, and yep, you get set out on a bunch of different missions on your mission to stop a bunch of drug-dealing scumbag pirates who left you for dead. Oh, and the leader of them also happens to be your brother, the Nerve. You have a pretty generous 28 missions in total with various objectives. Sometimes you have to blow everyone you see to bits, sometimes you've got to collect items, sometimes you have to rescue or escort other seafaring folk, and sometimes you even take part in races. The variety is quite predictable, but mixed up enough to keep things from getting too stale. For the story mode, you don't have a choice in the boats that you use. This is predetermined for you, which is a bit of a shame. You have one that's fast with machine guns and low armour, slower, more tank-like ones with rockets, mines and loads of armour, and everything in between. Including one with no weapons at all, but it's fast as hell, perfect for the races. Each mission takes place on its own stage, which are all medium-sized sandboxes, though there's no real need to explore as you often can't get too far away from your objective, and there's not really any secrets to find, which is a bit of a shame. But the action is fast and frantic, and most importantly, pretty damn fun. Controlling your ship is easy, you move with the analog stick, which I did find a little odd. I thought you'd have an accelerate button, but you don't. You have buttons to change weapons, boosts and so on. There's lots of enemies, which are just different varieties of ships. Some are really tough, and most of them take a hell of a beating to take down. But what's nice is that all enemies drop ammo and health when you kill them, so you do have a fair chance. You even get boss fights here, and these are really fun, and very tough, with some taking me a good few tries. You do visit a few different islands throughout the course of the game, which does help to mix up the environments, but most of the time I didn't really notice, as you're never paying that much attention to what's going on in the background, normally because you've got enemies trying to blow you up all the time. I do like the graphics here, they've got a fair amount of detail, and the water effects are actually pretty impressive, and even affect how your boat steers and bobs around. You do have to look out for waves, though there was a bit of a missed opportunity to have massive waves crashing over you, though as it's more arcade-like you never actually flip, or if you do capsize you just immediately turn back up the right way with no penalty. But the game is always fun to play. I have actually gone back to it a few times after playing it for this video, and it's one that I do plan on seeing through to the end. It goes for a good price these days as well. It's just a shame it's not backwards compatible, as I think it would look great in the HDMI of the Xbox, but still, if you can, I recommend giving this one a go. Here is Dungeons & Dragons Heroes, a fun hack-and-slash RPG game for up to 4 players. I'm playing it here again on the Xbox 360. As it's a D&D story, there is a pretty needlessly convoluted thing about a bloke that was evil and opened portals to various dimensions. He was sealed away, but 150 years later, wouldn't you know it, evil cultists brought him back and now he wants to continue his quest of taking over the world. Thankfully, 4 heroes, which also conveniently matches the number of controller ports on the Xbox, take a stand to take him down. So you get 4 characters to choose from, a human warrior, an elf wizard, a cleric dwarf, and a rogue halfling, who once again each have their own stats, magic, abilities, and so on. As I'm a basic bitch, I chose the human warrior. He swords things. The game plays like many of these top-down RPGs. You choose your character and essentially make your way through a number of towns, dungeons, caves, swamps and so on, fighting enemies, leveling up, getting equipment and so on. But I actually really like these kinds of games. Ever since playing Baldur's Gate on my GameCube, I've had a soft spot for this gameplay style. It's basic and repetitive, but scratches an itch, that's for sure. The game is split into levels, and eventually you'll get to some sort of hub world. Each level is a series of paths and corridors for you to explore, while you search for loot and kill stuff. You do have a handy map which I recommend leaving on, as it makes navigating the samey looking environments much easier. As you explore you'll meet enemies, lots of them. You've got a few attack buttons, weak and strong, as well as magic, and buttons for your abilities. Of course, these things all vary depending on your character, and killing enemies gets you XP which levels up your health, strength, and the usual things. But every few level ups you get to choose from an upgrade of certain abilities and to unlock special attacks, giving you a bit more customizability for your character. You'll find plenty of chests to unlock along the way as well, and you'll need keys for these, which are dropped by enemies as well as being found in the huge amount of smashable things that you find in the levels. Chests will contain potions for health and mana, as well as money which you can use at the various shops you find, and even weapons and armour. And this game does the thing that I absolutely love, where the armour and weapons that you equip actually appear in your character, so you can make them look as cool or as stupid as you want to. There is a lot of combat here, and it is very simple, just a case of hammering the attack button really, and every now and then you want to throw in one of your magic or special abilities for good measure. Like for me, one of my abilities is a war cry that stuns enemies. This makes it pretty damn easy to kill stuff, and I leveled the hell out of that one. I like the variety in enemies as well. You have regular people, demons, giant spiders, trolls, orcs, and a bunch of ones that I don't know the name of, but have a funky fantasy flavour. The controls are actually very good here. They've done a good job of giving you a quick access to your potions with the shoulder buttons, which I guess would be the black and white buttons on the original controller. And the actual shoulder buttons open a quick menu to let you change your equipped magic and abilities. It's all pretty nicely done. It looks decent enough as well. There is a variety of locations to explore and a lot of enemies, though there's not a ton of detail and the animation can be a bit iffy for some things. But still, it's fun. I enjoyed playing by myself, but this would be a game that my friends would love to play in 4-player co-op. I'd say if you like a bit of fantasy, this is well worth a look, and the fact that you can play it on your Xbox 360 is a huge bonus as well. Check it out if you can. Blinx the Time Sweeper, only on Xbox. This is a cool 3D platform game where you are Blinx. He's a cat. He's also a time sweeper. Some evil time monsters have appeared and are ripping holes in time and space, and your job is to go out there and fix it all. You do this over a number of different worlds, each with a handful of levels and a boss to take down at the end. Your goal of every world is to kill all of the time monsters that have appeared. Once that's done, then you have to make it to the gate at the end of the level, and then it's on to the next one where you'll repeat the process. Levels have varying numbers of enemies. Sometimes there's only 3 or 4, but later levels can have 10 or more. To defeat them, you have to use your vacuum cleaner, but rather than sucking up the enemies themselves, instead you've got to use it to suck up the various bits of scenery and objects that are laying around. You can hold up to 5 things in your vacuum, and these can be fired as projectiles with a tap of a button, so sucking things up and shooting them at enemies. Simple. Not quite though. Enemies often have weak spots or require certain things to be shot at them to kill them. For example, there's frogs that will eat just about anything you fire at them from the front, so you either have to hit them in the ass, just like your mama, or fire an explosive into their mouth for them to swallow so they blow up. Also, never mind. Levels also have few things for you to collect. The main things are the coloured icons that you find. These are very important as they give you your time powers. Collecting 3 or more of the same icon for every 4 that you get will grant you a power. This means that you can't just pick things up randomly, you really need to think about what you need. If you get 3 of the same icon and then a 4th, you'll get 1 of whatever the power is that you've collected. If you get 4 of the same, you get 2. Does that make sense? I feel like I've explained that really badly. The powers you get let you rewind time, pause time, slow down time, and also record a copy of yourself that repeats whatever you've just done for the past 30 seconds. There's also hearts you can get which give you extra life if you collect 3 or 4 in a row. As you can imagine, you'll need to use all these powers to solve various puzzles, like rebuilding a bridge that's fallen down by rewinding time, pausing falling debris just in time so you can use it as a platform, or you might need to make a copy of yourself so you can be in 2 places at once. The puzzles are never too crazy, but some did take a bit of figuring out. The levels themselves aren't too large and you actually have about 10 minutes on each of them. I did fail a few times because I ran out of time, but mainly because I'd missed an enemy somewhere and just couldn't find it. Also in the levels you can find money and cat tokens. You can use these to buy upgrades like more lives, new costumes, and even more powerful vacuums that can suck up larger items, which do more damage when you fire them at enemies. You'll need these as you want to take on the later levels, and you can even use them to suck up blockages that open up secret passages. The game looks really good. This is a very early Xbox game and it does show off what the system can do. There's a lot of great animation in here and they've done a really good job on the hair on all the characters as well. The monster designs are a little boring though, but I do like the bosses. I did try playing this on my Xbox 360 for better picture quality, but it runs like absolute ass, which is a real shame, so I don't recommend it if you don't have an original Xbox. The controls are decent but not great, they are a little clunky and do feel a bit slow. I did find that I died a lot because it wasn't as responsive as I'd like, and also the camera doesn't really help, often moving all over the place when you don't want it to, so it hides some of the monsters. But still, this is a really fun game that has some great ideas. I'd also have the sequel, but haven't gotten around to playing it yet, mainly because I've heard it's a bit crap. But still, I'll try it at some point when I finish this one. Here is Voodoo Vince for the original Xbox, another console I don't talk about nearly enough. Vince is a voodoo doll, and he is brought to life after his owner's voodoo shop is broken into and robbed by a rival voodoo bloke and his minions. Get ready for me to see voodoo a lot. Vince is one of the few things not taken, and happens to be the third best voodoo doll that the shop owner has, so he's got to track down the thieves and get back all the stuff before they can use it to do evil black magic. You'll get to explore a really cool world here that all interconnects after a while, and I really love the whole look of the game. It's another one that could have been made by Tim Burton with crazy characters and a spooky but kind of family friendly aesthetic. You'll explore towns, graveyards, shops, caves and more as you collect juju beads, magic flasks and voodoo powers. There's the usual running and jumping to be done. I mean, it's a 3D platform game, so how many times can I repeat myself? But being a voodoo doll, you've got a few cool things you can do. There's a load of enemies all over the place and you can fight with your fists, which works well. They'll drop the juju beads when you kill them, and you can use these to fill your magic meter. When it's full, you'll glow blue, and you can pull both shoulder buttons at the same time to do a voodoo attack. These are great and come in a few varieties, and basically they all end up with you getting torn apart in ever increasingly violent ways. But this of course hurts your enemies and not really you, and they will die. You can take out large groups of enemies with these moves. It's great, but it doesn't mean you're invincible, and they can still kill you, but you know, video game logic, deal with it. You might also need to hurt yourself to complete puzzles, like being set on fire to light torches, or being shredded to get through small gaps and things like that. It's really cool and inventive, and I really like seeing all the different things that happen. There is a lot of puzzling to do here as well. Well, maybe not puzzling, more exploring to find an item that you need, normally to get access to a new area or to do some damage to yourself so you can get somewhere else or kill someone. The game looks great with some really smooth graphics and animation and a great frame rate. There's a fantastic sense of humour here as well, and Vince isn't annoying, and he talks just about enough smack and usually lets the violence do the talking instead. It's also got a really cool jazz soundtrack, and I genuinely love jazz. This is a really fun game, and it's actually one of the main reasons I wanted an original Xbox. Thankfully, it turned out to be as good as I hoped it would, and it's... Superman, the Man of Steel was released as an Xbox exclusive, and yes, I bought it specifically for this video. Thankfully, it wasn't very expensive. Here, Brainiac 13 has infected Metropolis with a tech virus, causing all sorts of robots to go crazy. He is then using the robots to harvest technology to power and upgrade his own, so he can take over the world. So Superman sets out to stop him. Most of the game is set in Metropolis, as you're doing the various things you need to stop Brainiac. This involves a lot of what we've kind of seen already, fighting robots, rescuing civilians, carrying large objects to various places, putting out fires, that sort of thing. It's basically what you expect from a Superman game, really. You have these same abilities as most of the games as well, being able to fly wherever you want, and every level takes place in quite a large sandbox area, which is nice, but it's still divided into levels with fixed objectives per level. You have your laser eyes, freeze breath, x-ray vision as well. These are used a lot throughout the game, and you can lock onto enemies, and certain enemies can only be defeated with certain attacks, which is a nice way to mix things up. You'll fight a variety of robots that fire lasers or punch you, or some that just try to ram you. You'll also meet characters like Bizarro and his army of clones, and other Superman villains that you'll need to fight. These lot are considerably more dangerous, but most of the time the biggest threat is the timer, and most of the levels have one. You're given a fairly strict time limit before someone is either killed or kidnapped or something is destroyed or that sort of thing. The most annoying part of it is that there's no checkpoints within the levels, so if you do lose even the last objective, it's back to the very start of the level for you, every time. This is never fun, but levels aren't overly long and you can beat the whole thing in just a few hours. Controlling Superman is actually quite good. It's easy to pick up and play. He flies quite fast and is always fun to explore when you can. It looks pretty good as well. It goes for the more realistic graphics, whereas every other game we've seen so far is a lot more cartoony. It's good enough, though some character models are a little iffy, but a real product of its time, I suppose. The main thing I don't like is Superman's voice. I can't really explain it, but it is quite annoying and he's far too righteous, even for Superman. But the game itself is fine. It's not great or anything. In fact, it's just about as average as you can get. But for a Superman game, it could be a whole lot worse.
Fuzion Frenzy!
Time for a trio of games that are sort of similar, starting with Fuzion Frenzy, being played here on my Xbox 360. This is a 4-player party game with a total of 45 minigames that take place across a series of worlds. It's basically an extreme version of the Crystal Maze. As such, it doesn't really bother with a story, which is fine, it doesn't need one. But at the start, it basically tells you that you're taking part in a game show and that the winner is totally rad and cool. So you choose from a handful of instantly forgettable generic characters. There's actually no difference between them as far as I can tell, other than looks, so it doesn't really matter who you choose. And then you get to select how many zones of the worth of games you want to compete in, essentially how many games do you want to play, and then you're all set to go. Every game is for 4 players, so you'll always have CPU players filling in any unclaimed spaces, and the variety of the games is actually quite good here. You've got a few different races and different types of vehicles, including large metal balls that were shown in all the promotional materials, and you have games where you're in tanks and trying to blow each other up. There's some where you're essentially playing King of the Hill and you have to grab an object and hold onto it for the longest amount of time, elimination games where you don't want to be holding something when a timer runs out, games where you have to score points by taking objects to markers, and so on. Each of the zones, which include a coliseum, downtown, outlands, military zone, power station and waterfront, each have their own arenas and their own version of the previously mentioned games. So actually there's not a huge variety in the actual games, but you just have a few different games that take place on different stages. Know what I mean? Winning games gets you crystals, and yep, the end goal is to have the most crystals. The last game of every zone is the Fuzion Frenzy game. This sees you gamble with the crystals that you've already amassed. You choose how many of your supply you want to appear during the game, and you have the chance to take them to markers to double them. You can also steal some of your opponent's markers, as well as white ones appearing that any character can grab and take for more points. If you're behind, it is a good idea to gamble as many of your crystals as you can, and it's quite a fun way to let players get back in the game actually. All characters can attack and jump, and as mentioned, there's no real difference between them, not that I could tell. Sometimes, like in Fuzion Frenzy, that game mode, you'll need to attack other players to steal their items and things like that, and it can get pretty frantic. I do like how the game looks. It is a little generic, but there is good animation and always quite a lot going on in the backgrounds. There is sometimes a bit of slowdown, but I actually think this is mostly an issue when playing on the Xbox 360, and it's not really a thing on the original hardware. Overall though, there's not a whole lot to say about this game. It does have a fair amount of mini-games in it and is quite fun, but I can't really see it being one that I'm going to bother going back to very often. I will say that it would probably be a lot of fun with 3 friends for an evening, but once you've played it a couple of times there's not much incentive to go back, thanks to the lack of any unlockables. Kung Fu Chaos is another party game for up to 4 players, but this time with an emphasis on fighting. There's a daft but kind of fitting story here. Basically, the whole thing takes place during a filming of various Kung Fu movies. Your chosen Kung Fu character, all of which are based on 70s action movie stereotypes, is part of the action. Each level is essentially a scene from a film and you have to make the action as good as possible. And I actually quite like this game, it's a cool idea. There are 8 characters to choose from and they all control the same, but do have their own movesets so don't actually play the same. And what's nice is that in single player you can change characters between levels if you want, which is a nice way to keep things fresh, and it's also really handy when I'm recording footage. Anyway, you have a few training levels that teach you the basic combos, etc, then you move on to the actual action stages. These are all fights against waves of enemies, but there's always a catch and gimmick on the level as well. Your mission on almost every stage is to defeat a certain number of enemies, and ideally in the coolest way possible in order to make the scene look good. Enemies will just constantly spawn in, and for each one that you throw off the stage or defeat, you get a point. And the more points, which are converted into stars, the better, and you'll unlock more levels and even more characters. Characters have basic combos as well as throws and super moves and taunts. You want to use a variety of all of these on each stage for maximum star points. Regular combos and throws get you 1 star, but using a taunt when you're doing a combo or knock someone down earns you even more, because you know, it looks cool. And it also helps you build up a special bar which lets you do a devastating super move that easily kills enemies in 1 hit and gets you loads of stars. It's fun and easy to do everything, though the controls can take a little getting used to at first. What's really fun though is that the levels also have plenty of stuff going on. Of course there are enemies everywhere and they can kill you. You have 3 takes, or lives, per level, though you can find more during the stage. But there's also so much stuff just going on, with some levels being static arenas that you just need to throw enemies off of. Others, you'll play auto-scrolling platform levels which are really fun and have scenery that crumbles around you, platforming that you need to do, or even doors and things that you might need to throw an enemy through to get into it. Other times there's enemies flying around the screen, quite literally, that you need to avoid, or there's things like cannon fire, vampires that can't be killed or need to be avoided, poison gas rising from the ground and forcing you to get to higher and higher platforms, all while the counter times down, so you're frantically trying to kick ass with as many enemies as you can at the same time. It's a really cool cross between Power Stone and some kind of basic 3D platform game, and it does work really well. It's also got a great sense of humour, with a tongue-in-cheek approach to just about everything here. And yet, I think it looks really cool as well. It's got a great cartoony style where everything is exaggerated and the characters all look good and animate really well. Every stage is also unique and fun to play. You go through cities, forests, Chinatowns, graveyards, ships and other places you'd expect to see a fight scene in a Jackie Chan movie. I haven't played this in multiplayer, but I can imagine it being a lot of fun, and it's definitely one that I would like to try out. Just need to find a friend. And the last crazy party game here is Whacked, another game that takes place as a zany TV show where the cartoon contestants are all aware they're on a game show and are competing for the grand prize. And what is the grand prize? Well, you've got to win the tournament to find out. You've got 7 characters to choose from, and they're all 2000s edgy and crazy, and I've since been told they're all based on the 7 deadly sins, which kind of makes sense. There's an angry rabbit, a whingy bird, a strange gibbering monster thing, a lion bloke that loves himself, a spoiled brat, a man who is asleep the whole time but on a sentient bed that does everything for him, and then there's Lucy, a sexy woman who uses her giant rack to get what she wants and is actually completely naked when you're playing the game. No prizes for guessing who I chose to play as. But no, you don't get to see any of the good stuff. The game censors it all. So you choose the naked woman and then you're put into a series of mini-games, all of which have the same goal, which is to collect the allocated number of stars on each of the stages, and the game will tell you how many you need. As you know, this is done in a variety of arena-style mini-games. Some are solo if you're playing single player, but if you're playing with friends, they're almost always competing against the other 3 characters. And when I say almost, I mean always. These are either real players or computer AI, depending on if you've got friends at the time. The games come in the usual variety for a game like this. You have some that are simple death matches where you get a bunch of weapons which you need to smash the other players in the face with, and it makes them drop their stars for you to collect. But be aware, when you drop your stars, you can't collect your own colour back. Sometimes you're doing things like playing dodgeball when it's the last one standing. Sometimes you're put in an arena with deadly chickens and you get stars for killing the most chickens. And there's also variations on capture the flag, king of the hill, and that sort of thing. They all work well enough, and the game does a good job of explaining how they all work, so you're never left wondering what to do. There's loads of weapons and power-ups to collect in the stages as well. You get a variety of melee and projectile weapons, most of which are pretty cartoony and silly, like a giant staple gun, a homing boxing glove, and things like that. You unlock more and more weapons as you play, and they're all introduced in the form of a TV advert or commercial, which gives you an idea of what they do. It's a pretty cool way to do it. The games are played over a variety of sets, so much like Fuzion Frenzy, you do repeat most of the games a few times but in a different arena. There's toy levels, Christmas ones, pirate ships, towns and so on. It does mix things up enough, I think. Playing the game is actually quite fun, though the controls are a little wonky. It is tank controls, which can make collecting things a little awkward at times, but it's easy to get used to. In fact, as I was playing, the game really reminded me of an on-foot version of Cell Damage if you've ever played that. It's another one of those games that is kind of fun when you're playing it, but there's really not a whole lot that made me want to go back once I turned it off. It does try to be crazy and edgy, but it's one of those games that tries a little too hard and just comes across as a bit obnoxious and ends up just sort of shouting in your face for no reason, if you know what I mean. I did have some fun while playing it, but it's another one that I can't really see myself coming back to in a hurry. And I've saved the best till last. Here is Outrun 2, another backwards compatible game that looks lovely on the Xbox 360. This is the sequel to the amazing arcade original, and I'm happy to say that it keeps the awesome arcade feel, ridiculously addictive gameplay and stunning visuals, all in glorious 3D. It's a very simple game. You choose from a handful of cars, all of which are Ferrari, and partly the difficulty that you're selecting. You have a few that are slower but easier to control, and they go all the way up to the ones that are really fast but have tougher handling. Once you've chosen your car, you choose from a selection of fantastic music tracks, all of which are great, and then you set out onto the road. Now, there's only one course that you race on here, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's divided up into various sections, and the whole thing plays out like a time trial. Your goal is to get to every checkpoint before the time runs out, but this is where you have a choice. At each of the checkpoints, the road splits in two, giving you the choice of the two routes, with a total of 15 being available. The left route is easier than the right every time, so you can kind of choose your own difficulty, but no matter which one you choose, it's always a challenge, and I've only ever actually made it to the very end a handful of times, and always using the easiest route. Now the thing is, it's actually really hard to make it all the way to the end with the beginner cars, so you really do need to learn the game and start driving the more advanced ones as soon as you can. Yeah, they might be tougher to drive at first, but it's the only way to get to the end, but trust me, you'll want to keep playing. The driving feels so good here, it's fast and smooth, and you've got a great drift mechanic that's done by releasing the gas, pulling the brake, and then putting the gas back on again. The drift is brilliant and the only way you'll get anywhere in the game, so start using it immediately. As the whole thing's on a timer, you don't have to worry about other racers, in the normal game mode anyway. Instead, you just need to avoid traffic and obstacles, because if you crash even once, there's a very high chance that you won't make the next checkpoint, but don't give up. As well as the usual arcade mode, you've got a few challenge modes, which sort of act as tutorials as well. These are optional, but do offer unlockable things, including new cars, so it is worth doing them. Some of these do involve other races to take on, as well as drift challenges where you have to stay within a certain colour line. Then you've got heart attack mode where you have a sexy woman in the car with you, and she tells you that you need to do certain things to impress her, which might be drifting a certain distance, overtaking a certain number of cars before the next checkpoint, and that sort of thing. It's a nice way to break things up, and none of the game feels tacked on. They all offer a good challenge and a fun bit of variety. Visually, the game is stunning. It could really be an early Xbox 360 game with some great car models, lovely use of colour, which I guess it means it can't be an Xbox 360 game as they're all grey and brown, and just some overall great presentation. It controls flawlessly and is a game I come back to again and again. I've actually owned this game for years, as my brother kindly gifted it to me, and the reason I bought a steering wheel for the Xbox 360 made the game even better. I don't have that steering wheel anymore unfortunately, but I definitely would get another one just to use with this game. I can't recommend it enough. I'm not a big racing game guy, but this is really easily in my top 10 racing games of all time. Now, I've seen some sources claim that this is also on the PS2, but that is Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast, which I think is technically an updated version of this game. But still, as per my video criteria, the box for this one says only on Xbox, so that's what I'm going with, and all you need to know is you need to play this game. So there you go, a bunch of games that, at the time at least, you could only play on the original Xbox. I've got quite a few that are still in my backlog, so this is a topic that I'll likely be coming back to at some point, so be sure to let me know what other games I could have included in the comments below. On screen now you can see where you can follow me, so why not do so? I've got loads of great content for everyone to enjoy. And now, all that's left for me to say is thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.